In this video, I want to arm you with a collection of commands we can use to get some great troubleshooting information from a router. In the last video, we already took a look at the show processes CPU command, and we saw how this number is the 5-second CPU utilization on average for the router. This is a percentage of time that's being used by the router's processor to do packet switching, something we generally do not want it to do. Here's the 1-minute average, 4%. And the 5-minute average is also 4%. That's a great show command, especially when we're looking for specific processes that we're suspecting might be causing an issue. Another really handy command when it comes to troubleshooting router performance is show memory. We've got a certain amount of RAM inside of our router, and we can see a column for totals here, and we can see how much is used and how much is free. As you're looking at your different pools of memory, if your free seems to be very, very small in comparison to your used, that might be an indication that you're approaching a condition where you run out of memory. You can have a memory allocation failure message pop up on your router, and that can really hurt your router performance. If you get into a situation like this, it could be because there's some sort of a Cisco iOS bug. You might go to cisco.com, log in, and under the tools area, you can go into the bug toolkit and see if there is a known bug relating to a memory leak for your specific model of router and the specific version of Cisco iOS that you're running right now. But here, everything looks fairly good. I've got more free memory than used memory, so I'm happy with that. And now let's take a look at another really commonly used command. It's show interface, and we would normally specify an interface identifier, but we'll just take the first one that pops up here. Fast Ethernet 0/0. We get to see that it is up at layer 1, but something's not happy at layer 2. We see that the line protocol is down. We might need to start troubleshooting that. We see the IP address assigned to the interface. We see that we're configured for auto speed and auto duplex. And something that I often look for here is the 5-minute average output and the average input. Are we actually passing packets through this interface? Are packets coming in? Are packets going out? Well, right now they're not coming in or going out because we're down at layer 2, but if things were up and happy and we had traffic flowing, we should see numbers here, and that can give us an indication as to how much traffic this interface is handling right now. And I want you to visualize this. Imagine that traffic is coming into a router maybe on a gig interface, and we're trying to leave maybe on a much slower serial interface. Can you see that in a condition like that, a router might be receiving much more traffic than it can send out? What does the router do if it's receiving traffic faster than it can send it? Well, the router is going to have a queue, a buffer, and this queue is going to store packets up until bandwidth demand dies down. Then the router will take the packets out of the queue and send them on their way. But the queue is only so big. In this example, on this interface, our output queue has a size of 40 packets at the max. And if we're experiencing poor performance, we might want to see, is it because our queue is congested? Right now, the current size of our queue, the current number of packets in our queue is 0. So right now, we're not experiencing output queue congestion, but that's something else for us to look for as we're doing our troubleshooting. And as we look through the rest of our show interface output, notice that we've got lots of other great information about errors that we might be experiencing. And these specific errors can, in some cases, point us to what might be going on. Another handy command for us to use, and I use this a lot with serial interfaces, is the show controllers command. On this router, I've got a serial 0/1/0 interface. And remember, when you have a serial interface and you're connecting a cable, like a Cisco Smart Serial cable to that interface, that cable determines if that interface is a DTE interface or is it a DCE interface. Typically, the DCE side is the side that provides clocking. And you need one side of this circuit to do clocking and be DCE, and the other side needs to be DTE. Well, without physically visiting the site and seeing that, yes, this cable says DTE on the end, and that's what's plugged into this router, is there a way for us to determine that remotely? Actually, there is. I can do a show controllers, and let's do serial 0/1/0, and this will tell us if we're connected to the DCE side of a cable or the DTE side of a cable. And look at this, it says I'm connected to the DCE side, and if I'm connected to the DCE side, I need to have my clock rate set, and indeed I do. Oh, by the way, I mentioned that if we were physically at the router, we could simply look at the cable and it would be labeled. I've seen a cable that was mislabeled. It actually had DTE labeled on the DCE side and vice versa. It was an incorrectly labeled cable, so please be aware that's a possibility. Sometimes as we're doing our network maintenance and troubleshooting, we want to get more information about the router itself. One command is show platform. And this is going to give us very detailed information about this router. And we get a lot of hexadecimal output, which I typically don't find very valuable. But this can give us some information about our chassis and about the chassis serial number. Another command we can use to get information about the platform itself is show diag. Let's take a look at this. It also tells us that we're running a 2811 router. It also gives us serial number information. And as we scroll through, we see that it gives us information about what's installed in the router. I've got a packet voice DSP module in slot 0. I've got a PVDM, a packet voice DSP module in slot 1. I've got a WAN interface card in slot 0. I've got another WAN interface card. But again, we're having to look at all this hexadecimal output. I've got an advanced integration module and another WAN interface card module and another advanced integration module. I've got quite a few modules in this router. Let me give you my favorite command, though, for looking at this type of information where we don't have to wade through all of this hexadecimal information showing EEPROM content, which I'm not going to know what to do with. We can simply say show inventory. Show inventory gives us a beautiful, concise look at what's installed in our router. It still tells us that we're a 2811 router. It still gives us serial number information, but much more concisely, it shows what I have installed. I've got a 4-port Ether switch module. I've got a WAN interface card. I've got an E1 card. I've got some packet voice DSP modules. And I've got these advanced integration modules. Much easier to look at this output, in my opinion, than the show diag output. But you might need to do a show diag or a show platform if you're working with Cisco TAC. Most of the time, though, I'm going to be relying on this show inventory command.